Let's talk about the world. Women, men, boys, and girls. Hear about the news and politics. Yeah. Education and relationships. You know if you turn into this show. The Duane Cherry Show. If you wanna know, the Duane Cherry Show. There's something beautiful. The Duane Cherry Show. The Duane Cherry Show. There's something technical. The Duane Cherry Show. The Duane Cherry Show. If you wanna know, the Duane Cherry Show. There's something beautiful. The Duane Cherry Show. The Duane Cherry Show. There's something technical. The Duane Cherry Show.
Welcome everyone to the Duane Cherry Show. I am Duane Cherry, the radio angel. Each week I always like to thank each and every one of you for being so faithful by tuning in to the hottest program streaming on the web. That's the Duane Cherry Show. Remember, this show you can be heard from coast to coast, from border to border, and on every street corner. And we are so happy that so many of you always take the time out of your day to listen to us. You can pick us up on WHMLradio.com, WNDK.biz, TuneIn.com, the Olliewop Network, C-Tunes, and you can even go to your television. Now, just think of this. You're sitting at home watching TV. Go to Roku, your smart TV. Go to Roku, put in TuneIn, put in WNDK Radio, and boom, you can listen to me while you're sitting there watching TV. So there are so many ways to pick up this program, and I am so honored that each and every one of you each week are making an effort to do that. You know, I love to bring on guests. One group of guests that I've had on, quite a few this year, is photographers. And I have a very good friend who I call the photographer to the stars. Haven't had him on. I think I had him on earlier in the year, back in when the new year began. And I said, this is a good time to get my good friend on. He's still doing great things in the field of photography. His name is Mr. Donald Gurley. Don, thanks for being on the Duane Cherry Show.
I am honored, Mr. Cherry.
Good. Yeah. Don,
I'm also impressed at the success that your show is having, too. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, man. I've had quite a few people on from the L.A. area, your former area where you used to live. So I've had quite a few guests on from California.
That's right. And I've spoken with some of them, and they've all told me what a joy and how privileged they felt. And it was an honor.
Yeah. Don, before we get started, I tell you, I knew you were an acquaintance of Bill Cosby. You remember Bill, don't you?
Yes.
Back in your LA days. I know, and we know that he was released from jail on a technicality. And, the technicality had nothing to do with what he accused of. It was the agreement that he had. And quite honest, with that agreement, he shouldn't even been prosecuted or found guilty. But
that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. But what do you remember about Bill back in your LA days?
Well, I was in awe of Bill Cosby when I didn't get to LA until 1990, summer 1990. And I had always been in awe of Bill because I knew he lived in Massachusetts, which is where I came from. I came from Massachusetts to get to LA. Mm-hmm. At least I went that route. So, and Bill was he was tops of my list. And I was honored because once I started working for Playboy, which is where Bill really got his start from, Mr. Cosby, and Dick Gregory, and the two of them, I know for a fact that Playboy was instrumental in their careers and launching their careers and pushing them on to the great heights that they've done.
Yeah.
And every Father's Day for 17 years, I think one or two of those years, 1 year for sure, when Cosby lost his son, he didn't make it out to LA for that. But he was hosting the Playboy Jazz Festivals at the Hollywood Bowl every Father's Day weekend. And I got to know him very well. And I even choked on a couple cigars with him. And it was, I got to know him very well, and I had high esteem for him, and I still do to a large degree. And I haven't made any judgment as to what actually happened. Things happen, but I know people that have talked to me on both sides of that issue.
Yeah.
And they seem to be, everybody's got their points on each issue. He's a friend of mine, and I will always say that. And I still respect him. I still admire what he's done. And I think he's still funny.
Yeah. I think it was a unfortunate incident that he got sentenced in the legal system, because there was an agreement that whatever he gave in the deposition would not be held against him. So
that's correct.
Yeah. And, I just wanted the listeners to know about the man, about the gentleman. He got caught up in a situation a few times that may have been wrong, but overall, a lot of people that know him still respect him and still love him.
And I'm certainly amongst that group. I really appreciate him. He's done a lot for me. Just in conversation with him and talking with him and just getting to know him has done wonders for me personally.
Yeah. How was that jazz festival set up? Was Hugh Hefner still living at that time doing the festivals?
Oh yes. He recently passed. I don't know what year he passed it, but it hasn't been that long since he passed away. But he had been doing that for a while. I don't know the history of how long the festivals were going on. But Bill Cosby started with Hefner when they were doing, way back in the days of the Playboy clubs. They were in various cities. I think he had one in Philadelphia, he had one in Boston, he had a couple in Chicago, I think, and other cities around the country. And that's where Bill and Dick Gregory both started their comedy careers, their stand-up careers.
Okay. Yeah.
Hugh Hefner was responsible for that. I tell you one other thing about Hugh Hefner too, that Hefner told me this, we call him Hef, but he told me this himself. He says, I was probably one of the first people to ever have Dr. King on a national television show. And he did.
Yeah.
Dr. King, he did on his show called, it was some kind of late night Penthouse. Playboy Penthouse is what it was called, I think it was. Yeah. And it was Hef's show. And he said he had Dr. King on as a guest.
Yeah.
And that's what, and a lot of that has to do with why the Playboy Bunny faces left, because that's the way he leans. That's how Hef leans. He's more of a left-leaning politically. He's leaning to the left, and those are his views. He doesn't believe in, like, the Republican side leaning to the right. He doesn't. That's not him.
Yeah.
But he's done a lot of things, a lot of good things. I know people have issues about his stance on things and how he made his fame and what came up. But he worked hard for it, and he was a good friend of mine too. To be able to call him Hef, like most of his friends and family do, I think that was a real accomplishment. He'd call me in at certain times just to do special shoots for him. He'd ask him about a shoot that we did together that he needed a picture of somebody with someone or something. And it was fun. He was a good guy.
Yeah, and
you put a lot of people on the map.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think that interview is still available through social media, Don. I think there's some ways you can still pull up that interview with Dr. King.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. At least I haven't spent time trying to research it.
Yeah.
But I just remember having a conversation with him at the Playboy Mansion out in LA. One day we were just sitting around and he was telling me about the things that he had done, and I was asking him about stuff, and I was impressed. I mean, it's a conversation that still lasts with me today.
Yeah. I guess back in those times too, when you were doing photography and it was more camera photography.
Film.
Yeah, more film. Yeah. There were probably just a small elite group of y'all that really was involved in that, wasn't it? It's not like it is today. Everybody thinks there's a photographer with an iPhone or Android. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But
I have issues with that, and I still distinguish the two. Digital imaging and photography are, for me, they're very different.
okay.
I mean, it's. I don't have the enthusiasm. I really don't have the interest to do the digital imaging as I did learning film, working with film, and what different types of film and what the results were and what you could get out of it. I mean, I knew film like I knew the back of my hand, and my face in the mirror. I knew that. I knew it really well. But the digital imaging is a new thing, and the convenience of it, I do not. I mean, I think that's just fantastic. I think it's great, very convenient. But I'm not quite satisfied with the actual quality, and everything's much smaller now. So to enlarge anything or increase its size, the way we did it with film, it was a whole different procedure.
Yeah, but now, Don, you can take your phone to the nearest photo kiosk, and print your pictures out. Because the only thing problem I have is 2 weeks later, those photos, those shots are forgotten, and they're just stuck in your phone somewhere if you don't delete them. Many of them are deleted.
Yes.
Yeah, because your phone gets too overloaded with so many pictures.
That's true.
Yeah. Don, let me take my first break right now. We're going to talk more, ladies and gentlemen. My guest is the photographer to the stars, Mr. Don Gurley. Hadn't been on my program in a while. Had to get him back on. We're just going to talk about photography, a lot of the social issues that are going on, and we'll be right back with the man right after this word from our sponsors. Heavenly Good, the most contemporary food takeout service located in Jackson, Tennessee, is Heavenly Good, where the meals are freshly prepared, from their tuna, chicken, and chef salads to their fruit and veggie plates. And don't forget, every Friday, fried catfish. Give the owner, Connor Watson, a call right now at 731-240-1556. That's 731-240-1556. Or stop by at 1296 North Highland Avenue, Suite 12 in Jackson, Tennessee. Heavenly Good. Remember, it's either heavenly good or it's not.
What's wrong? What are you making all that racket for?
See, Esther, I'm in a happy place, because you didn't see my face in the crime scene.
You sound like that old devil done got a hold of your tongue.
I'm happy because I don't care how drunk I get or how many times I get arrested, you won't be seeing my mugshot in the crime scene. As of May 2021, they're going to stop publishing mugshots along with the weekly arrest reports. Yay!
You need prayer, Woodrow. There's more in the crime scene than just your relatives in them mugshots in Jackson, Milan, and Humboldt. Arrest records, you can find the Brown Bee, West Tennessee Outdoors, weekly birthday and obituaries, and legal notices in the classified.
Well, you still didn't see my face, the mugshot in the crime scene.
But I saw your name, you old heathen.
Get your Crime Scene Examiner newspaper every Thursday at your local Dollar General store. The Crime Scene Examiner newspaper is also online at csenewsnow.com.
Hi, this is Pastor Ron Tharp with Run for Christ Ministry. Be sure to tune in with us each and every Sunday afternoon at the 1400 hour block or 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for a Word with Pastor Ron Tharp. God bless you and God keep you, friend.
WHML Gospel Radio Station, your radio home for all of your Christian needs. Talk, praise, gospel, inspiration, and Christian music at its best.
And we're back, everyone, to the Duane Cherry Show. I am Duane Cherry, the radio angel. Going to break, we're talking to Mr. Don Gurley. Don Gurley is who I call the photographer to the stars. A young man that went out to L.A. in the 90s, did photo shoots and did celebrities, did so many things. Don, remind the listening audience, how did you get into photography?
Well, believe it or not, that started right in my hometown.
Okay.
I started out with a Polaroid, and my father on Stonewall Street, actually, is where we lived. And my father called me in one day. I was outside playing. He says, he wanted to show me. He wanted me to take a picture for him, of him. And that was like the first photograph I did. It was a Polaroid. You shoot it and pull it out and peel it off and let it dry and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of piqued my interest then. And that's about the same. Well, I'd already started playing drums before then, but it got me started thinking about, what I'd be doing, what I'd like to do in the future to earn my living professionally, how I would like to make a living. And I packed it up. I moved from Jackson up to Boston with the idea that I'd be a drummer and a photographer. But photography took over because I really need something more consistent than just either weekend work or studio work as far as drumming went.
Yeah.
And the music industry. But I kind of like being around people, and I like freezing moments of time. Just the idea of being able to take a piece of time and just hold it in your hand and look at it, that's a moment. That's a frozen moment. Yeah. I really like the idea that interest grew. And I got very good with it. I got very, very good at what I do, from what I'm told, and I was very happy with what I was doing. So I never stopped learning how to do it, especially in the days of film where you got to process it, and you got to take it in a dark room and enlarge it, and you have to know what you're using so that you can anticipate the results you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
It worked well. It worked well for me career-wise. It did wonders.
Yeah. What was the first camera you ever purchased, Don? And what were the features on that first camera?
Well, by the time I got to Boston, everything was more the 35 millimeter kit camera. My first 35 millimeter was a Pentax Spotmatic F. I remember it well because it had a bayonet mount on it. Some mounts recently, Pentax was making a mount for the lens that you screw in. The one I used and started with was a bayonet mount where you put it on and it would click and lock itself into place. But that was it, a Spotmatic F. And then I went through the gambit. I had a number of them. I had Canon, I had a Nikon, I had a Minolta, I had a few of them at the time. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, but then a lot of that was just to be cool, try to meet with the ladies, and a lot of that played a role in it too. I was young in high school. I was doing the yearbooks, and it showed me a way how to present myself and to try to get people to, go to work with me, and I could work with them. It taught me a lot about myself.
What type of formal training did you have? Did you take any photography while you were in high school in Boston?
I did actually. I took a couple of courses while I was in high school, or shortly after high school. I know it was my senior year in high school. I took some courses, like some community. I think it was called Hillside Community Visual Arts Center. And I'm still friends with the guy that taught me then. He taught me how to do darkroom work.
Okay.
His name's David Ludlow, but he lives in New Zealand now. And he took me. I joined the class, and he and I would spend a lot of time together. He'd show me how to do this and how to, make my film and process my film and make my prints and try them off and make them presentable. Yeah, I really got into that. So I started doing that at home eventually, and from that it led to me working. I did an apprenticeship for the Gillette company, and I was in the basement of the Prudential Towers in Boston, and that went into me seeing photography on a whole different level. And everything just kind of mushroomed from that. This was still a young age for me, and it's just one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I had this desire to go to LA, to go to Hollywood. I wanted to go Hollywood. I wanted to do that. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to give it a go. And it was quite the thrill.
Yeah, but before that happened, now you hooked up with a couple of guys that I've had the pleasure of interviewing on my show, didn't you?
Oh, yes. I knew a guy in Boston. When I was at the Prudential building, I ran into this guy. His name was Richard Cartwright. That's where the Gillette company, we had the photography department at the Gillette, the razor company, to make the razors and razor blades and stuff. We bought the photography department of Gillette company bought our supplies for this guy by the name of Richard Cartwright. Okay. And he and I became real good friends because his shop was right next to the Prudential building, and we could get supplies here and there. Anything we needed, he would have it and get it. And we became really good friends. So he left Boston and moved out to California, and he had a friend that was doing stills work, like sitcom stills and TV work, working strictly with television.
Okay.
And he did. He got into it and was in it for a few years. In the meantime, I left Gillette and went to work for a company called Digital Equipment Corporation. And I started out in their corporate photography department as a photography specialist. So I had to do everything. I had to shoot. I had to process. I had to conceive stuff and then make sure I had to light stuff. I had to do everything. So I had the title of photography specialist, which I did for about from early 1980 until 1990, when I stayed in contact with Richard Cartwright, and he said, "Hey man, why don't you come out here? There's a whole bunch of fun, a whole bunch of work. Man, come on out and hang out." I said, "Okay." So I moved from Boston. I drove across country from Boston to LA. It took me about 8 days because I stopped in New York, I stopped in DC, I stopped in Tennessee in Jackson. And then I headed on out to LA. And 3 days after I got there, my very first show. Richard Cartwright set me up to go shoot on the set of a show called 8 is Enough.
Okay.
And that was I'm dating myself now, but that was a show. I had never been on a set, on a TV set, not to that degree. I liked it. I said, wow, this is interesting. And from there, it led to other stuff, and I got involved with NBC television because I was living in Burbank, and they were literally like maybe a couple of miles from my house. So I went by, knocked on the door. I got situated with them and started doing Jay Leno. Just coming on as host at about that time. He taken over from Johnny Carson. And things just developed and they grew. And I guess my personality had something to do with it, because one thing always led to something else. And I was blessed to be able to ride that wave, and I'm thankful for that to this day.
Now, when you shoot still photography, like on a TV set, what are those pictures used for? Like publicity or to promote the show, or what exactly? What I'm trying to get the listening audience to understand how this works. You being a photographer and doing photos on different movie sets and different TV situations.
That's exactly what it's used for. I mean, they use it for primarily publicity, but they also make posters from stuff that issued, and they do just like special pieces. They'll use an image to put on lunch boxes or all kinds of different promotions and stuff like that to try to push a particular show. At least that's how it started out. They did a lot more of that then than they do now, because shows are so fly by night now. They'll come out a couple seasons, they're done.
Yeah.
And some of them last a lot longer, but that's the way it was done before. But the studio owns the work. The people that hire you, they pretty much own the work, but it's your work. I mean, you're entitled to your credit, your film credit, and your on-screen credits and stuff like that. And they pay well for it. The money was very good. I mean, I was just devastated. I mean, when I was working for Digital in Boston, I was making in a day what I would make. It would take me a whole week to make.
Okay.
It's like, wow, this is pretty good here. I kind of like this.
Well, I guess that's that living on the West Coast lifestyle.
Yeah, well, you needed it. That thing they call sunshine tax, that's real.
Yeah. I was going to say, Don, that's to live out there, you need every penny you can get. Let me take another break right here, Don. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is Mr. Don Gurley, the photographer of the stars. Just talking a little bit about photography and his life and how he grew up in the South, in Jackson, Tennessee, migrated to Boston, migrated to LA, California, and now he is the photographer of the stars. We'll be right back, everyone, after a few words from our sponsor. Looking for lunch or dinner that is tasty and affordable? Well, when you order from Loaded and Stuffed, you'll get just that. Loaded and Stuffed specialize in homemade loaded nachos and jumbo stuffed baked potatoes with many toppings such as Philly cheesesteak, shrimp and bacon, and their most popular one, chicken bacon ranch. Loaded and Stuffed is located in Nashville, Tennessee, and they offer local delivery and catering. You can contact them on Instagram or Facebook at loaded_and_stuff or at 615-640-1680. That's 615-640-1680. So the next time you hear what's to eat, let Loaded and Stuff be your treat.
Woodrow, what are you making all that racket for?
See, Esther, I'm in a happy place, because you didn't see my face in the crime scene.
You sound like that old devil done got a hold of your tongue.
I'm happy because I don't care how drunk I get or how many times I get arrested, you won't be seeing my mugshot in the crime scene. As of May 2021, they gonna stop publishing mugshots along with the weekly arrest reports. Yay!
You need prayer, Woodrow. There's more in the crime scene than just your relatives in them mugshots in Jackson, Milan, and Humboldt. Arrest records, you can find the Brown Beat, West Tennessee Outdoors, weekly birthday and obituaries, and legal notices in the classified.
Well, you still didn't see my face, the mugshot in the crime scene.
But I saw your name, you old heathen.
Get your Crime Scene Examiner newspaper every Thursday at your local Dollar General store. The Crime Scene Examiner newspaper is also online at csenewsnow.com.
Mission Convalescent Home Health and Rehab Center is a 5-star rated healthcare facility. We have a comprehensive therapy department to help you reach your optimal level of efficiency, along with a superior short-term and long-term nursing care program. Schedule a tour today by visiting us at our new website, missionch.net, or contact us at 731-424-2951. Mission Convalescent Home Health and Rehab Center, we should be your health care facility of choice.
At We Care Preschool, we are growing, so the need has arrived that we are looking for permanent and substitute teachers along with floaters. Full and part-time hours are available. We offer an above-average salary, paid vacation, holiday pay, and more. Call Miss Cheryl now at 731-422-3976, 731-422-3976, and join the We Care family.
Hey, this is Daryl Luster of the Daryl Luster Radio Show, and you got it right. You got it locked right in at WHML. Keep it there.
WHML Gospel Radio Station, your radio home for all of your Christian needs. Talk, praise, gospel, inspiration, and Christian music at its best.
And I'm back, everyone. Duane Cherry, the radio angel, back with Mr. Donald Gurley, the photographer of the stars. Just talking a little bit about Don's lifestyle, dealing in photography, working in photography. Don, what would we both have a mutual acquaintance, and that is Mr. Lou Stevens. Lou was able to, I think, do shoots for every Olympics. How many Olympics was it, Don, that he actually...
13 he covered.
13 Olympics, and so that's every 4 years.
No, he did winter and summer.
Okay,
so
he did
what? 2 years. It was every 2 years for him.
Okay, and he was not able to go to Tokyo this year for the Olympics, and he actually had an exhibit set up in Boston, didn't he, of all his works?
Marketing at its marketing 101 at its best I've ever seen it before.
Yeah.
I mean, because of COVID, it's why he couldn't photograph this year, or this summer, and he didn't do last winters either.
Yeah.
So however they fall, I think they're like 2 years apart. But Lou Jones he's one of the prominent photographers in the world as far as I'm concerned, and he's a brother, and he's been at it forever. When I was still learning in high school to process film and stuff, I worked in a photo lab, and Lou would bring his work there. So I used to process his film, and I would look at this stuff, and I never knew that he was a black man. I was like, wow, this stuff is really good, really sharp, really well lit, it's very professional. Mm-hmm. And companies took notice. And he's worked for more corporations than anybody that does photography. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did those Olympics, man. But the idea of what really blew my mind is that he could not go to Tokyo, so he decided to have his 13 years of photos that he did do on the Olympics, summer and winter, on display in a museum. And they're still on until the end of this month, actually. It's still running. The show is still running.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the views are like, ooh. I mean, he said people are just, they have to sometimes shut it down, the admittance, letting people in, because it's overloaded. It's too many people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I called him Lou Stevens, but it's Lou Jones, and he's up in Boston, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He's
in Boston. That's where I know. That's where I've known him from. But he didn't start out as a photographer. I think he was what do you call him? Rocket scientist.
Yeah, yeah. He was a physicist, wasn't he?
A physicist.
Yeah. I think. Well, him and Millbrook also. Majored in physics.
They did.
Yeah.
Sandy Brooks, yep.
Yeah, Sandy, and I thought that was very ironic that two guys who are now probably the top photographers in America both started out being whatever you call it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Majoring in physics. Yeah.
That's what they were.
Yeah.
I mean, those things that I've just learned, but both of them have extreme marketing abilities, and they constantly reinvent themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what I envy that to the max, because that's what you have to do to stay current and to keep an income coming in to earn money. Sandy, I mean, his brilliance is in reinventing himself by now he doesn't shoot nearly as much as he used to, but everything he shot over the last 50 or more years is up for grabs. I mean, he can make a book. He can make books of people's lives from when they started their careers, or when they were in college still, until the day they became judges and lawyers and doctors and nuclear physicists, because he knew Ron McNair very well and the family. They were actually, he was an astronaut. He's the one that died in the Challenger accident.
Yeah.
And I mean, those kind of things. But you can build lives. You can tell stories, and he's done that. And Sandy has decided to take it on full force. I mean, he can take somebody and go back 30, 40 years of their life in photographs. From events that he did, and that's marketing now. So all he does is sit at home, and somebody says, "Hey, we'd like to present our father or our grandfather with some photographs of his life and stuff." And he goes, "Oh, I got you covered. I can do this. I got this. I got that. I got this." And people respond. It's just brilliant. I think it's just marketing at its finest.
Don, what do you have planned for yourself as far as photography going? You, ladies and gentlemen, this young man has some fantastic images. He has probably one of the most sought after photos or shots. I was going to say shots, but photos, and that is of Bob Marley when he performed in Boston back in the 90s. And you actually got a shot of him walking. What was he walking? To the stage to perform?
That was in the 70s.
Yeah.
That was actually
okay.
So in the 70s. He just finished a concert he did at Boston College.
Oh, okay.
And it was the first time I had actually seen him in concert. And I got hired by the producers of the show to cover it just for the producers, and it was amazing. I also got to work with Jesse Jackson that day, and Dick Gregory, and Patti LaBelle, and Bob Marley. I mean, and Olatunji. He was a African drummer, percussionist and drummer. And Olatunji's son was producing the show. And he and I got along real well together, and he hired me to cover the events of the day. That was fantastic. One of the best days I've ever had as far as shooting.
Yeah. What do you got planned, Don, for your memorabilia and your photos that you have available?
Well, I have been working on trying to get published. I'd like to do a book of my work. I'm thinking of it as a coffee table piece that people can buy on a collection basis and share some of the personal images. Because my images, I like to think of them as like a piece of me in each one of them. One of the photography classes I had, the instructor told me, he says, you have to think about every image that you shoot is like a piece of skin off of your eye. I mean, you putting yourself into this. And I kind of grew up with that over the years. And so everything I shot, there was passion in it. There were my feelings in it. And there was my work. So I would like to make a book I'm still working to find a publisher. I'm desperately seeking a publisher that's willing to help me make that happen. So I've gone through it. COVID set everything off, but I mean, it really set everything off because at the time, before COVID, I was with an agent and I had representation, and people were actually selling and working for me, trying to make that happen. But as of COVID and the way things are happening now, I haven't been able to reestablish those connections because some of those people that were working with me are no longer here.
Yeah.
With us, and for whatever reason, I'm still working on it. I have not given up by any means. So I really don't like to have my stuff out on the internet published because I'm saving it for my big break.
Yeah.
Or a chance for me to make for my ship to come in, I guess is the way to put it.
Okay.
But I'm still working on it.
All right. Well, Don, man, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on my show. I reach out to so many people, and you guys are always so busy, but you're always so gracious to give me time for an interview, and I really appreciate you doing that.
I appreciate you, Mr. Radio Angel. I really appreciate you, and I thank you, and I'm honored.
All right. If someone wants to reach out to you, anything about photography, talking to a class or doing a set, how can they reach Donald Gurley?
Well, you have to reach me, I guess, well, they could go through you and ask about me or text me.
All right.
I do not have a website per se at the moment. My name is out there. I am on the internet, and I can be sought out. So
yeah,
it's not become invisible.
All right, Don, I appreciate it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest has been Mr. Donald Gurley. I call him the photographer of the stars.